Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my talk today about bringing augmented reality into your classroom. My name is Lyndsey Stuttard. I work as a digital teaching and learning specialist for ACS Cobham International School in Surrey, here just outside of London, which is a recognised Apple Distinguished school. I work as an Apple Professional Learning Specialist and an Apple Distinguished Educator. If you are interested in connecting with me outside of this talk today, you can follow me on Twitter/X or connect with me in the Apple education community. I hope that by sharing my story today that you walk away with some really good practical examples for how you can start to integrate AR into your classroom. We'll be talking briefly about understanding what augmented reality is, and then I'll be taking you through our specific journey for ACS Cobham, what we've been doing the past 5 years with AR in education, and talking about creativity and the role that it plays in the classroom today for students. And I'd like to end with just showing some of the examples of the way that we've used AR for assessments in different ages in the school. So I think first it's really important to understand what augmented reality is, especially in the present day when we have a lot of different types of realities being used. So simply put, AR is a digital layer that goes into your real world and you're viewing it through a device. So it's very different than VR or XR. AR is something that you're viewing just simply through the device that you are holding. And it's really imperative for students to understand that what they are seeing when they're viewing something through AR is not real. Whatever model or experience they are looking at through their device, they need to be aware that even though it may look realistic, it is not an actual real thing that they are experiencing. And so we impress upon that with our students from a very young age. So now that we understand what augmented reality is, I'd like you to join me on my journey with AR through ACS Cobham International School. Now, the work with this really began in 2019 when I first started experimenting with the potential that AR had to offer. And it began with a challenge that I set myself to spend 25 days learning everything I could about the practical way and purposeful use of AR in education. This was something that I documented on social media with the hashtag 25 Days of AR. I've done this challenge about 3 or 4 times now, so if you ever want to go back and have a look at some of the previous examples of my work, you can. But this really pushed me outside of my comfort zone and forced me to learn a lot more about a tech that I honestly at the time really didn't feel comfortable dealing with. But the more that I played with AR, the more I began to think in terms of building a virtual space, especially a space for students to explore. I became really enthralled with the idea of using 2D imagery to construct a 3-dimensional space. And after some experimentation, I realized that actually the workflow was quite simple and it was definitely something that teachers and students could replicate. So around about the time of World Book Day, I worked with our 4th grade team and had students create their own AR book museums, where they constructed it out of images of the books that were their favorites, and then went on a guided tour with screen recording, explaining about the books that they had chosen or the authors that they found that they really connected with. And then, in spite of all the progress that I was making, we hit 2020 and we all met COVID. Now, at the time, we had students in our international school that had gone back to their country of origin and were getting online and doing hybrid learning and distance learning, but we were battling against a Zoom fatigue with students. They just did not want to be online anymore, and we were really trying to find ways to engage them. So my dear colleague and I, we sat and talked about what I had discovered with my 25 Days of AR challenge, and could we leverage the creativity of AR to build an augmented reality escape room for students. And we figured with our understanding of the way that we wanted students to experience the curriculum and the content and our technical understanding that this would indeed work. So it took us about a month of trial and error, brainstorming the design and the content that we would have, but we came up with Escape the Pyramid, where we would put students inside a 3D pyramid that we had designed and have them walk around moving with their iPad, looking for curriculum questions and puzzles, and then they would have to submit the evidence as a way of escaping the pyramid. What was great about this in comparison to traditional escape rooms is it didn't matter how many times students wanted to attempt this, and it didn't matter where in the world they were. We could easily send the file to them, they could launch it on their device, even if they were in Mexico or in Australia, and still have the same experience as their peers. So this is our AR Ancient Egypt escape room. Now, the success of that pyramid escape room then got ideas going about links for other subject areas, such as an escape room relating to literature and a novel study, in this case, the book The K. We did add sound. I don't know if it's coming across that loud, but there is sound in the background there, as well as adding visual context. So as students were moving around the setting of the novel, and they were getting close in proximity to different aspects that we put in there, it would trigger them to either play a sound or start moving, and then content questions were embedded in the island there for students to go and interact with. As the evidence to escape the island, they had to submit their questions back to us. Now, in 2021, we embarked on a hybrid approach to education, aiming to really build on those lessons that were learned in lockdown. We wanted to make sure that even though we were back in the classroom, we didn't just fall back on traditional methods, but we're actually continuing to enhance and provide more innovative ways for students to continue learning. Now, our pre-K students, we serve students from ages 2 to 18. Our pre-K children, who are 4 to 5-year-olds, they're the ones that have really helped to pioneer everything with augmented reality, because they are so willing to take risks, they're so willing to learn through play. They don't realize that what they're doing is learning for them. Everything is just play and exploration, and it's been wonderful to watch them over the past few years engage more with augmented reality. So we developed a project that would incorporate AR in the development of understanding about their imaginations and where our ideas come from. In this example that you're going to see, the students had to come up with an idea of what we envision when we think about a monster, and then we brought that to life through making Play-Doh models that we scanned and made digital copies of. So here's our imagination monsters. Other ways that we've been using augmented reality has been with a tool that we've invested in called an interactive sandbox. Now, if you've never seen a sandbox like this before, it basically projects an image down onto just playable sand, and the image will then change based on the height and the depth of the sand as it's being manipulated. Now, we had our 4th grade students come down for their science and build landforms in this sandbox. Now, we could have ended just the lesson there and said, right, 10 minutes building, that's it, done. But we found a way of being able to LiDAR scan the models that they had made in the sandbox and turn them into 3D models that they could then take back on their iPads with them and be able to add in their audio descriptions about the landforms they've made, about the different types of landforms, adding in animations, and even background music. And this is a project that we've continued with since we've discovered upon it. Keeping with the theme of escape rooms, taking the Pyramid 1 from 2020, we actually improved upon it and turned it into an ancient Egyptian town where our students had questions relating to the curriculum and content embedded in the different buildings that you see. So they had to walk around and explore, looking for those questions, solving the puzzles, and submitting evidence of the work that they had completed. We even went further and added in some background music to make it really feel like a first-person gaming experience for the students. In 2022, it really became the year that we focused on the themes of sustainability and bringing that to our students through AR. We've had a real big push to bring the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to our children and making sure that they're aware of the type of things that they're going to be encountering as they get older. Now, on the left-hand side, we have a pre-K child, a 4 to 5-year-old, making use of the WWF Forest app. It's a wonderful free app that allows children to explore various types of rainforest ecosystems, to learn more about what lives there, but also to learn about the role that humans play when they interfere in that ecosystem. And the children get to launch a rainforest, walk around it, interact with the content, and learn new ideas. And at the end of each experience, we have the children reflect on what they've learned. And at the end of the unit, they actually get to build their own rainforest. And then screen record and explain to the audience about what it is that they've created and why. And on the right-hand side, we have the Mission to Mars app, which we use with our 2nd grade students. That puts them on the surface of Mars. And this links to sustainability because we have these students who start to learn about space, but then also want to learn more about the role that Mars can play as a future host planet for humans. And so students through that app get to explore the surface of Mars, get to see what a potential colony would be like, and then get to drive the rovers and fly the drones, which is always a nice treat. For 2023, we've really gone all in with not only creativity for students, but also accessibility. We want to make sure that every student has access to connect with the world around them through the use of augmented reality. And the confidence in our teachers has grown to show that really any age can make use of AR. In this video, you're seeing it is a 3-year-old who is confidently using different 3D models in the classroom. So we have squeals of sheer delight, and that's evidence enough that even our youngest learners are not afraid of AR and actually incredibly keen. But I think our crowning achievement, however, has really been our AR End of Year Expo for our 5th grade students. Every year, our students do a cross-curricular research project that takes between 6 to 8 weeks. And as a result of COVID, we were not allowed to have parents come in to sort of see all the research the students had done, posters and printables and so on. And we tried to think of a way to flip it to be digital. And for the past 3 years, we have done that consistently with an AR End of Year Expo. What's been great was our 2023 5th graders had actually had more AR experiences in education than any generation before them. So they were put in the driving seat of creating everything, digital files, and then designing their own AR room to present that in, which I would like to share with you now. So if anything is true from our work with AR, is that creativity is in the driving seat. We want our teachers and our students to be using AR to create and share their ideas in every classroom. We've really looked at sort of since the post-pandemic world, the traditional approaches, and they just really aren't meeting every student. We need to be changing the way that we're teaching our children and providing them access pathways to not only access the content we're sharing with them, but ways for them to share their understanding back to us. And this is an unpopular opinion, I think, but are we catering to the comfort of teachers more so than we're actually caring for the way that children need to express their ideas and understanding? Whereas if we use creative approaches, we are eliminating any potential barrier for the children in order to share their understanding in a way that they best feel comfortable with. So we want to make sure that the deeper learning is occurring and they're not being limited just by traditional expectations and approaches. So we spent the past few years developing this model, which I affectionately called ALF. It's the Access to Learning Framework. If you think about your student at the center taking in information, they're going to take in information in a variety of different ways every day, but that those ways can change based on external factors, family issues or fights with friends. And so we as teachers need to be cognizant of the ways that we're providing information to our students to ensure that pathways are being created, but also once students have processed information, how are they sharing that back? And we need to make sure that they are confident with creative tools. They can say what it is they want to say, how they want to say it. So some examples, when students get to use open-ended tools, they can create with their own designs. This was one that we had a student present here at BET last year, which was addressing one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. She decided to redesign a section of our campus and put in more plants and more plant species and habitat improvements to encourage more native plants and animals to grow and thrive there. We've also continued investing in students being able to use LiDAR scanning capabilities. So not just the teacher, but actually students being confident to do that. So we have been looking at our digital design club, being able to create with Play-Doh and then scan that, turn that into a 3D model. Not only with Play-Doh, but just as an example. So the last part of my talk today is just very quick about AR for assessments. We are making use of different AR apps to provide as pre-assessment or post-assessment for our students. In this example, we've made use of the JigSpace app to look at a coral reef as a pre-assessment for students to see what it is that they know, what it is that they're connecting with, or creating additional types of escape rooms, including our primary age students who can go through a pumpkin patch and complete various math activities as a way of a post-assessment related to a unit or topic that they've been working on. What I think is crucial with AR with assessment is you want to have evidence that the students have actually completed the tasks that you would have set them. So in the example above, students are exploring ancient Mesopotamia, looking for the questions of the content or the puzzles. Maybe they have to take a screenshot, maybe they have to talk with a partner, and then they submit their evidence through a different type of file, in this case using numbers. So there is definitely a piece of evidence that we're getting back from our students. I always advise teachers when using AR or really any creative tool, you should align your rubric with what you are assessing in the curriculum. Don't worry so much about the quality or the design or the execution of it, but really focus on, has that model or has that experience that a student has designed in AR, has that got at the core of the curriculum? And if students are going to be creating with 3D and AR, it helps to give them a checklist of things that you want to make sure they're going to include, because we know children, when they get their hands on creative tools, they'll just get lost with all the bells and whistles. So it's always important to make sure that they're being guided through that process. So just some final thoughts. It's definitely a way of promoting non-traditional assessment when you're using AR. It's providing creative expression for students in different ways. It's quite difficult for AI to replicate, especially if you're asking for really specific things for students to produce. It gets them up and moving around. And we are enforcing more organizational skills which can be applied in any other subjects. Thank you very much. If you'd like to chat with me later, I will be over at the Academia stand NG35, and tomorrow I'm bringing Digital Design Club students, so if you're around, do pop by to see them. They will be presenting AR designs that they have created. Thank you.